The sun was just setting over Oakwood Estates, a neighborhood known for its manicured lawns and rigid HOA rules. Inside a modest but beautiful two-story home, Danielle Johnson, a teacher and proud new homeowner, was finishing dinner prep. Her husband, Marcus Johnson, a decorated Navy SEAL recently retired after years of service, was upstairs unpacking boxes. The knock at the door came sharp and sudden. Danielle frowned. No one had texted, and neighbors usually called before visiting. She opened it to find two men standing on the porch. They wore navy jackets with bold white letters that read HOA Security and had badges clipped to their belts. Their demeanor carried an air of intimidation, not professionalism. "Evening, ma'am," one of them barked. "We've had complaints. Your trash bins are out too early, and your garden lights don't meet HOA standards." Danielle blinked. "That can't be right. We followed the rules." "Don't argue," the taller one cut in. "We enforce the guidelines here. Either fix it, or there'll be fines." The tone was hostile, and Danielle's stomach tightened. "Sir, I think you should speak with my husband." Before she could finish, the second man smirked and shoved her shoulder. When she protested, he snapped, his hand flashing across her face in a stinging slap. Danielle stumbled back, shock and pain filling her eyes. "You can't." "Quiet," the fake cop growled. "This is our neighborhood. You do what we say." But what neither of them realized was that Marcus had heard everything. From upstairs, the unmistakable crack of the slap ignited a fire in his chest. His instincts sharpened instantly, the same instincts that had carried him through combat zones. By the time Marcus descended the stairs, his steps were silent but heavy with rage. His wife's hand covered her cheek, tears in her eyes. The two HOA cops didn't notice the storm walking toward them until Marcus's shadow fell over the doorway. His voice was low, calm, and lethal. "You just made the biggest mistake of your lives." The taller man turned, sizing up Marcus as if he were just another homeowner. He smirked, puffing his chest. "And who are you supposed to be? Another rule breaker?" Marcus didn't answer immediately. His eyes locked on Danielle, her hand trembling against her reddened cheek. That sight alone sent a wave of controlled fury through him. He stepped forward, his broad frame filling the doorway like a wall of steel. "I'm her husband," Marcus said evenly. "And you just put your hands on the wrong woman." The shorter man chuckled. "Relax, tough guy. We're HOA security. We can do what we need to keep order." He flashed his badge as if it meant power. Marcus's eyes flicked over the badge. Fake. Cheap laminate, poorly made. These weren't real officers, they were bullies hiding behind a title. He'd dealt with men like this overseas, swaggering, cruel, and unprepared for real resistance. Danielle whispered, "Marcus, don't," but he raised a hand gently, calming her. His voice remained low, measured, but carried an edge sharp enough to cut glass. "You've got two choices," Marcus said, stepping down onto the porch. "Apologize to my wife and walk away, or stay here, and I'll make sure you regret every decision that brought you to my door." The taller one sneered. "Is that a threat?" "It's a promise." The two men glanced at each other, then back at Marcus. Maybe they thought numbers gave them an advantage. Maybe they thought his calm meant weakness. Either way, they made the wrong decision. The shorter one lunged first, swinging a sloppy punch. Marcus moved like lightning. He sidestepped, grabbed the man's wrist, and twisted. A sharp crack echoed as the man yelped, dropping to his knees in pain. Marcus shoved him aside like discarded trash. The taller man cursed and swung wildly. Marcus blocked, his forearm a solid wall, then delivered a precise strike to the man's jaw. Bone met bone with a sickening thud, and the fake cop stumbled back, dazed. Danielle gasped, clutching the doorframe. She had seen Marcus train before, but never unleash himself like this. Marcus advanced, his voice calm but deadly. You brought violence to my home. Now you'll understand what real discipline looks like. The fight had only just begun. The taller fake cop staggered, clutching his jaw, but rage drove him forward again. He roared and swung both fists like a street brawler. Marcus didn't flinch. His SEAL training took over, precise, efficient, devastating. He ducked low, drove his shoulder into the man's chest, and slammed him flat against the porch rail. The wood cracked under the impact. The man wheezed, trying to catch his breath, but Marcus didn't give him the chance. He pivoted and delivered a crushing elbow to the man's cheekbone. A snap followed, and blood poured as the taller thug collapsed, his face a ruin. The shorter one, still cradling his broken wrist, tried to scramble up from the grass. Marcus's cold gaze locked on him. Fear flickered in the man's eyes, but desperation pushed him to pull a small baton from under his jacket. He charged, screaming. Marcus moved with controlled precision. He sidestepped, grabbed the man's arm mid-swing, and yanked hard, flipping him flat onto the ground. The baton clattered away. In one smooth motion, Marcus pinned him with a knee to the chest and hammered two brutal strikes into his face. The man's nose shattered, blood spraying across the concrete. Both impostors writhed, broken and beaten, groaning in pain. Marcus loomed over them, chest heaving but eyes steady, unshaken. You think you're lawmen? Marcus's voice was low, cold, and certain. You're nothing but cowards hiding behind fake badges. You put your hands on my wife. You threatened my family. Now you pay the price. Danielle stepped forward, her voice trembling. Marcus, maybe that's enough. He turned slightly, his rage tempered by her touch. But he wasn't finished. He crouched beside the taller man, grabbed the phony badge from his jacket, and held it up to the porch light. This ends tonight. If I see you, or anyone else pretending to be HOA security, near my home again, I won't stop at broken bones. The two impostors whimpered, barely able to lift their heads. Their faces swollen and bloodied, their pride destroyed, they understood the warning. Marcus stood tall, helping Danielle inside with one protective arm around her shoulders. Behind them, the men crawled away into the night, beaten beyond recognition. But Marcus knew this wasn't over. If there were fake cops in his neighborhood, someone was pulling the strings. The night was still, but Marcus's instincts told him the fight wasn't the end. Men like that didn't act alone. Someone had sent them. Someone with power, or at least the illusion of it. The next morning, Marcus sat at the kitchen table, coffee in hand, laptop open. Danielle's cheek still bore the faint red mark, and every time Marcus looked at it, the fire in his chest reignited. He would not let this pass. He pulled up the Oakwood Estates HOA website and cross-referenced the official board members. No security officers were listed. No sanctioned enforcement team existed. These men weren't just bullies, they were criminals exploiting the HOA's reputation to intimidate homeowners. Marcus called an old contact in law enforcement, a fellow veteran who now worked with the county sheriff's office. Within hours, a cruiser arrived discreetly at the Johnson home. Marcus handed over the fake badges and gave a full report. His description of the men was exact, tactical, leaving nothing out. By nightfall, the sheriff called back. The so-called HOA cops were part of a scam ring, shaking down new residents for money and fines. They'd been operating in nearby neighborhoods, and no one had been brave, or skilled, enough to stand up to them. Until now. Danielle exhaled in relief, but Marcus wasn't satisfied with relief alone. Justice had to be clear and final. The sheriff assured him the men were in custody, their faces so battered they could barely mumble a defense. With the evidence Marcus provided, they'd be facing multiple charges: assault, impersonating law enforcement, extortion. That night, Marcus and Danielle walked their quiet street. Neighbors peeked out from porches and windows, whispers carrying through the air. Some had seen the fight. Others had heard rumors. Marcus didn't care about gossip. What mattered was that his wife was safe, and the message was clear: no one would terrorize his home. At their door, Danielle squeezed his hand. "You scared me," she admitted softly. "But you also saved me." Marcus kissed her forehead, his eyes hard but calm. "Protecting you isn't just my duty, it's who I am." Far across the neighborhood, the HOA board held an emergency meeting, rattled by the scandal. But everyone in Oakwood Estates now knew one truth: Marcus Johnson was not a man to cross. And the fake cops? They'd remember the night a Navy SEAL broke their faces for the rest of their miserable lives.